next time you're abducted? Because I'm ready for this. I'm ready. So you're there, you're like on the slab, because they always do like the sex experiments on you, on the flying saucer. And so there you are, and they're poking at you. Here's what you do. Vacation is not some thing to escape from. It's like, when is my vacation over so I get back to doing what I really want to do? You can be right and say, oh, I have this plan, let's just do this. If you can't implement it, you're just talking.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like 9 and 9. For my top 10, top 10, top 10, 9 and 9. This one's for my top 10.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and this channel was created to help you overcome the #1 challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know there's something more inside you too. You have Michael Jordan level talent at something. So get ready to do what you love, be comfortable with ignorance, and know that you can do anything with Neil deGrasse Tyson and my take on his top 10 rules of success to give you the confidence, motivation, and belief that you need. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Do what you love.
Do you ever want to retire?
Oh, retire. I mean, think about what retire means historically. It's you have some job. This is your labor. You're a farmer in the field. You work in a factory. And so you take vacations from that to get a break. You retire so you have some retirement income to not do this anymore. But suppose what it is you do is your first love. Then retirement is not some reward, it's punishment. Vacation is not some thing to escape from. It's like, when is my vacation over so I get back to doing what I really want to do? So, no, I'll do this to my grave.
Rule number 2, be comfortable with ignorance.
UFO. First, remember what the U stands for in UFO. Now, there's a fascinating frailty of the human mind that psychologists know all about. And it's called argument from ignorance. And this is how it goes. You ready? Somebody sees lights flashing in the sky. They've never seen it before. They don't understand what it is. They say, a UFO. The U stands for unidentified. So they say, I don't know what it is. It must be aliens from outer space visiting from another planet. Well, if you don't know what it is, that's where your conversation should stop. You don't then say, it must be anything. Okay? That's what argument from ignorance is. It's common. I'm not blaming anybody. Psychologists know all about it. And it may relate to our burning need to have to know stuff because we're uncomfortable, steeped in ignorance. You can't be a scientist if you're uncomfortable with ignorance, because we live at the boundary between what is known and unknown in the universe.
Rule number 3, know you can do anything.
What was it about your dad that impacted you so much that you still carry today?
So it's not so much, oh, he's my dad, I love my dad, that's all true. But at the end of the day, what matters is for who and what you become in life. For me, at least, was what level of wisdom did he glean in his life and then successfully communicate to me, either by example or by just explicit statement. And that combination of those two means of delivery had some important impact. See what I did there? Impacts on my life. Just for example, and I gave these examples in that eulogy was a letter to him during the memorial service. He died a couple of years ago at age 89, so it was not a tragic death. But you still miss someone even though you know they're ready to check out. And I'll just give one example, if I may. In high school, he was in gym class, and they were lining up, and they were about to enter the next athletic unit, and it was track and field. And the gym instructor pointed to my father online and said, Cyril Tyson, everyone look at him. He does not have the body type that would excel in track. And they used him as an example. And he says, what? No one is going to tell me what I can't do in my life. And he used that as a reason to start running. And he started track in that moment. I mean, not that exact moment, but he decided that one of his next tasks in life would be to take up running and excel at it. Within a few years of that, he became world class. At one time, had the 5th fastest time in the world. Oh. In the middle distance, they don't run this anymore, 600-yard run.
Rule number 4, be rational.
I was interviewed for the New Yorker magazine, and at some point, the interviewer asked, how was I raised in any religion? I said, yes, I was raised Catholic. And that was actually the first time I'd ever said that publicly. I never tried to hide it, just no one ever asked. And I said, but it was kind of like we used to go to church weekly, and then it kind of faded to once a month. Then we became ashes and palms Catholic. You just go on the holidays, and of course we celebrated Christmas. The real point I wanted to make in this article was that it did not influence in any obvious way any decisions we made. My mother never came to us and said, you shouldn't do this because Jesus is watching. There was no such interaction in the household. But the urge to say in an article on Neil deGrasse Tyson, he was Catholic, but now he's a scientist and lost his Catholic ways, as though there was some big transition that happened.
There was no transition.
There was no, it's not, so I see the urge of people to want to make these associations, but in our household, there was never what would Jesus do? It's what would a rational thinking person do in this situation? Yes. And that's how my whole life unfolded.
Also, if you want to learn from other Black leaders, check out my 254 Black Excellence series. It's free. The link to join is in the description below.
Maybe someone in your family has lost their job and there's not enough money to go around. Maybe you live in a neighborhood where you don't feel safe, or have friends who are pressuring you to do things you know aren't right.
There is no excuse for not living up to your fullest potential. No excuse.
If you wake up in the morning and you're dreading going to work, dude, do something else. Right. Do something else. And those are hard decisions to make. But when you make those decisions, it's a very liberating experience.
Rule number 5, be passionate about science.
If you have big, ambitious, big, hairy, audacious goals, big, ambitious missions that involve science and technology and engineering, and you have progress weekly that you can report about in the newspapers, that's a force operating on society. It's like, oh, what did we discover today? What are we going next week? What did the astronaut do then? What they're going to step down on a comet, on an asteroid. They're going to deflect an asteroid that might hit us. Oh my gosh, headlines. This works its way down into the educational pipeline. And all of a sudden people want to become scientists. They want to become engineers. You don't have to have special programs to get people interested in it because it is in the culture. It is in the air. It is in, everyone becomes and even if you don't want to be a scientist, you'll do things that are affected by what that frontier is. Let's say you want to be an attorney. What you're going to say, I want to write the new laws that'll affect mining asteroids. Who owns an asteroid when you arrive there?
It opens up a lot.
All of a sudden, the community becomes a participant on the exploratory frontier. We turn a sleepy country into an innovation nation.
We do love
and in that way,
exploration as humans.
We do, but somebody's got to write the check. Right. And so what I'm saying is, if this becomes the new culture, then the secondary effect is that everyone is engaged in some way in the STEM fields, and it is the STEM fields that are the engines of tomorrow's economy. The 21st century economy will grow on the back of innovations in science, technology, engineering, and math. And rather than forcing programs on people to get them interested in science, do something interesting in science. And then the interest follows like day follows night.
Rule number 6, don't care what others say.
When I grew up, I'm probably older than you, it was very common to hear the phrase, sticks and stones can break my bones, but words will never hurt me. You recited this. This is what you were told when you came home, when you said, oh, this bully called me a name, and sticks and stones can break my bone, but words will never hurt me. And so this was an inoculation against hate speech, really, against just evil people, just nasty people. You were able to develop a system of defenses against unpleasant people out there. And I haven't heard that phrase in a long time. I don't hear it recited in the elementary schools. What I think has happened over the years is we came to learn as civilization that words can be hurtful and words can sort of change your mood or set you into a depression. And so I don't have a problem with that. This is an enlightened new place to understand the role of our emotional state and how it interacts with our world around us. That's an advance in mental health. What I see on the flip side of that coin, however, is people are less able to deal with the very same people who are around today who were around back then, who are calling you names, the people who might be bullying you on the internet by saying things about you. I don't know that we have how to defend against that now other than seeing a counselor for your emotional state. I can say from the era in which I grew up, I don't give a rat's ass what you say to me.
Rule number 7, expose yourself to different things.
Did your parents, did they have any plan? My mother wanted me to be a doctor.
No, I'm actually quite, I don't say proud of them because they're my elders, but I'm deeply respectful of how they raised us. They didn't put any of their own life's ambitions on us, either what they achieved or didn't achieve. Either of those can end up a force operating on what your kids become. I couldn't become a doctor. You're going to become a doctor. Right? You know, who knows how many people's actual ambitions were derailed simply because of the forces operating on them by their parents. So they showed no force of alignment among me or my two siblings. But what they did do is expose us. We had the fortune to be raised in New York City in this context, right? Yes, it was dangerous. Yes, it was, there were riots and all. Yes, all of that. That all actually did happen. But we're embedded in quite a repository of cultural institutions.
Sure.
And so every weekend we did something different. We went to the opera, we went to a play, we went to a musical, we went to the ball game, we even went to a hockey game, went to the art museum, went to the zoo.
Wow.
And each of these weekends, it might have been 2 weekends a month. It felt like every weekend.
But that's great.
And this was exposure to things trained adults do. That's beyond just the doctor, lawyer, Indian chief options. And my brother ultimately became an artist, having been moved by our visits to art museums. And he ended up going to the High School of Music and Art, got his MFA, and now teaches art and paints. And, so, and my sister, she's the big sellout. She went into corporate America.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Someone had to.
She left school, but then came back and got her MBA. My point is, it enabled us, it empowered us to follow our own drummer.
Rule number 8, be efficient.
I hear in all this an echo of the notion that your dad gave you, which was so powerful for me when I read it, which is it's not enough to be right, you have to be effective.
Oh, yeah. He worked for city government in New York City during the civil rights movement. And if I just add one thing to that, the press doesn't write about stories that don't happen. Understandably. But I just want to say that he, at the time, the 1960s, mid-60s to the late 60s, arguably the most turbulent set of years on American soil, in American history, since the Civil War itself, a century earlier, with the assassinated leaders and the campus unrest, and the inner cities were burning, the ghettos, as they were known at the time. And what is a riot, if not the very last act of desperation because you are left without any hope at all? That is what a riot is. And so Watts burned, and Washington burned, and Chicago burned. Federal troops brought in. 1968, after Martin Luther King was shot. New York City, silent. Just some skirmishes here and there, nothing. So no one writes a story about that. My father was active. He was a commissioner in New York City in the Human Resources Administration. Human resources. This is human capital being nurtured and established in such a way that you feel some sense of meaning and importance in your life because you have a job waiting for you after you get out of school. There wasn't any lost hope there. There was still some hope. And so he was behind the scenes on that. And he just knew that in the most turbulent year of the most turbulent decade since the 1860s, the most populous city with the largest ghetto in the country did not burn. And so you can be right and say, oh, I have this plan. Let's just do this. If you can't implement it, you're just talking.
Rule number 9, don't judge others.
I hit this some time ago. It might have been when the movie The Devil Wears Prada came out.
Yeah.
I had not thought about the fashion industry in any charitable way until I saw that film.
Oh, interesting.
And here's why. And in that film, it's all about fashion. It's a fashion movie. And some of the dynamics that goes on inside. Some could be, exaggerated, whatever. But if you don't know anything about fashion, this is like, wow. Okay, this is an interesting.
I mean, it's interesting to me.
Encounter watch.
Yeah. Okay.
So I say to myself, is there anything that is as far from academic physics as a profession that you could possibly come up with? And I would say being a fashion model. Okay. That is the most opposite I can possibly think of. All right.
Okay.
Now, I thought about it and I said, there exists people walking among us that other people will pay money just to look at them. Oh my God. No, this is an extraordinary fact. And there are fewer of them than there are physicists.
Yes.
So what? And they will out-earn you. So I said to myself, who am I to value judge? An academic, intellectual pursuit versus whatever anybody else does. And I'm embarrassed how long it took me to achieve that revelation. It's now about 2 decades old for me. As a, that's late in my life as far as I'm concerned. So I kept saying, well, your intellectual powers, that's what matters. That's all that. And you just care about fashion. And I'm thinking, my God, somebody designed the clothes I'm wearing. And it wasn't me. And what that also did, it freed me up to, this was a liberation, to not criticize politicians who academics would otherwise criticize for being dumb or stupid or whatever. But talk about, so let's take George W. Bush for an example.
Okay, let's take him.
Comedians made fun of him. Everybody made fun of him. And academia, which as you know is mostly liberal Democrat, anti-war, as voters. Point is, you could say whatever you want about the intelligence of George W. Bush. But you know what? He's president and you're not. He convinced people to vote for him and you didn't. So to sit on your duff and complain that he's president and you're not, and whatever it is about his intellectual prowess that he has or does not have, you've got nothing to say. All right? You want to become president and bring your ideas to the table? Then go ahead and run for freaking president. See if you can get 60 million people to vote for you. And you probably can't.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is have fun.
Next time you're abducted, because I'm ready for this. I'm ready, okay? I get abducted, I'm ready, okay? So you're there, you're like on the slab, because they always do like the sex experiments on you, on the flying saucer. So there you are, and they're poking at you. So here's what you do. You ready? You tell the alien, you'll be alien for this, right? So you're poking me, all right? So then I say,
I'm on this side of the equation.
Okay, so I say, hey, look over there. And then he looks over there, you quickly like snatch something off the shelf, put it in a pocket, and then lay back, all right? Then you're done, you come back, and you say, look what I got. Okay, I like stole the ashtray off the shelf of the flying saucer. And then you bring that to the lab. And it's not about eyewitness testimony at that point, because you'll have something of alien manufacture. And anything you pull off of a flying saucer that crossed the galaxy is gonna be interesting, okay? Because even objects within our own culture. I got this device here, okay, the iPhone. 10 years ago, they would have resurrected the witch burning laws had you pulled this thing out, okay? And that's in our own culture.
Now I've got a special bonus clip from Neil on how to pave your own path that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the 3-point landing questions. Let's go from just watching a video to taking action. Here we go. Question number 1. Where do you need to stop judging others? Number 2, where do you need to be more efficient? And number 3, how can you expose yourself to something new this week? And if you made it this far in the video, I want to celebrate you too. Give me a hashtag believe down in the comments as well.
There was no teacher any time in my life, unlike what is surely the case with you, who would have ever pointed to me and said, he'll go far.
Oh, okay.
That's a guy. Because my grades were never, because they index to grades.
Yeah.
And they think the people with high grades are the ones that are going to be significant shakers and movers in the world because the system is constructed that way.
Yeah.
And if you hold aside people who become academics, who basically all have near perfect grades and everything, because that's the landscape.
Yeah.
Hold aside people who become academics. Other people who enter the real world, if you separated them by who got straight A's and who didn't, you are not separating the people who are the most
absolutely
who are the most significant on what matters in this world. The inventors, the entrepreneurs, the creative types, the poets, the journalists, the comedians, the people, the actors, the people that shape civilization as we know it.
And have an impact. And you know what? I guess
and some famous ones are college dropouts.
If you want another awesome video in our Black Excellence series, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.